Welcome back to your Quantock learning family. It's been absolutely brilliant to see you back at school, and I never thought I'd have to do an assembly like this, record it, and have it remotely played around the school. It's a little bit daunting, to tell the truth, so hopefully you're going to find it really interesting. I've tried to think about things that might be pertinent to you, and like always, I'm going to talk a little bit about new targets, but also reflection. And I think that's really important because I've had to reflect on the last 6 months. These have been unprecedented times. But to start with, I'd like to say welcome back because I've absolutely loved seeing you all back, engaging with your learning, engaging with the school, talking to each other. And I've loved seeing children back in school. Remote learning wasn't much fun. So, like I said, I'm going to do my assembly is going to be on reflection and setting new goals for the year. So, I wanted to reflect on the last 6 months because I think I learnt quite a lot, and I'd like to think that as a world we can reflect on what has happened, on how we're doing things, and we've got an opportunity to press the reset button to think about how we can change things for the better in the future. I don't want to go back to a normal or a new normal. I think we've got an opportunity to think about our environment, our planet, and how we do lots and lots of things to make things better. We've all learned to live in a new and different way. And this is a really good opportunity, not just in school, but at home and in the decisions that we make. So I saw this article quite early on in lockdown, and I was really interested because it was a quote from a woman who had just come out of 2 months in lockdown, um, in Wuhan, and she said, "Don't waste your quarantine. We are all realizing now how unique a time it was in our lives." And at the time when I read it, I thought, well, that seems a bit silly, really, because I can't really do very much. I've been told to stay indoors and just go out once a day for an hour. But I read the whole article, and it was about all the things that she'd had time to do that she hadn't done when she wanted to. So I was thinking about that, and it was about having the time to read, do all of those things that we just don't feel we're so busy we never get the time to do. And I thought, I need to think about that. What do I want to do with this time? I'm probably never ever going to have the opportunity to have 6 months off from work again. I know I've got remote learning to do, but there are things that I've wanted to do that I need to do. So I came up with a couple of targets. The first one, I think everybody thought, or certainly most of my friends thought they were going to get fit and make the most of their daily exercise allowance. That kind of lasted a couple of weeks. It's really hard to keep fit during lockdown and make the right food choices and go for your daily exercise. I just got a bit bored of it, really. But I'm back on track now, and I'm getting fit, and so it's still a target, and shall remain one for the foreseeable future. Spend quality time with my family. I saw more of my children as adults than I have done for years and years, and we got to spend time together as a family, getting to know each other again, doing things together. We didn't have the pressures of outside life, of people to meet, places to be. And so we just had that opportunity to spend time together, and it was really special. It was amazing. I loved getting to know them as adults. I loved spending time as a family, and I'll never forget that was a real highlight for me. I did improve my creative skills. I learned how to use Photoshop. I've always wanted to know how to do that, so that was good. And I learned to do a lot of sewing techniques that I haven't previously done. But I think more importantly, and that's what this assembly is about, is I wanted to know more about the world that I live in because I wanted to reflect, and I wanted to think about where we are and how things might change for the better. And I had the time to watch the news and read the newspapers. So this was an article that I read, and it was all about Extinction Rebellion, stopping the circulation of newspapers. And I saw it actually on Breakfast TV, and it was about the fact that there was this great article in the Sun newspaper, which I don't read, and I would never have read the article because I don't buy the Sun newspaper. But actually, they had the interview was about the fact that in the Sun newspaper there was an article about David Attenborough and the extinction of species. So, oh, actually, that sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to watch that. And I was so taken aback and so impressed with the documentary that I put together this assembly based around some of the things that he was talking about and the changes that we can make if we press reset, if we start to think about how we can change the world. The opening scene from the documentary was so impressive, I've included it now in this assembly.
Our planet is home to a seemingly infinite variety of species. From ocean giants to the tiniest insects. We call this abundance of life biodiversity. But today, it's vanishing at rates never seen before in human history.
The UN panel of experts has found that 1 million animal and plant species face extinction.
It is worse than expected. This is happening much faster than we've ever seen before.
Today, we are the asteroid that's causing many, many species to go extinct simultaneously.
The evidence is that unless immediate action is taken, this crisis has grave impacts for us all.
We're not just losing nice things to look at, we're losing critical parts of Earth's system.
And it's threatening our food, our water, our climate.
This year has shown us we've gone one step too far.
Scientists have even linked our destructive relationship with nature to the emergence of COVID-19.
We are encroaching further and further every day into wildlife habitat, and that drives emerging diseases.
If we carry on like this, we will see more epidemics as bad as this, and some of them could even be worse.
The decisions made as we rebuild our economies are critical.
Get it wrong, and we will be in deeply dangerous territory.
Get it, right? And we still have the ability to pull back and rein in the collapse of biodiversity.
We have a moment when we can change our world and make it better. This is that moment.
So what does that actually mean? Well, the United Nations got 500 scientists to investigate the current state of our natural world. And they found that we are losing biodiversity at an unprecedented rate. All populations are in decline. Large mammals have now disappeared from 3/4 of their natural habitats, and indeed 1 million species are now threatened with extinction, which is staggering. I looked into it a little bit more, and I found this graph that shows the extinction rates and how it's accelerating in the last 10 years. And you can see that it was fairly flat, but as time has gone on, and more recently, it's going up and up and up. And this is real cause for concern. The documentary featured a little bit about these two rhinos, and these are the last two African northern rhinos in the world. They are almost definitely facing extinction. I know there was an experiment where they had garnered some eggs and they were trying to fertilise with frozen sperm, but at the moment they are facing extinction, and that kind of made me think, why rhinos? Why are they facing extinction? And I found this fact that the greatest threat facing African rhinos is illegal poaching, and it's their horns. Their horns are taken, they're shot, and they leave them dead, and they just take their their horns, and they're used for medicine, but primarily for vanity. Really, they're bought and consumed purely as a symbol of wealth. And we are prepared, it appears, as human beings to make a whole species extinct just for our own vanity. And then I looked a little bit further about extinction and what that really means. And everything is linked. So the insects are linked to the creatures in the soil, the mammals that feed off the creatures in the soil are linked to human food consumption. And as insects are becoming more extinct, so are the creatures in the soil. And as that happens, our soil is degrading and it's affecting the food that we can grow on there, particularly in developing countries. We're not able to use that soil so effectively, which I didn't quite understand how everything on the planet was linked, and now it's becoming a bit clearer. So I looked at the oceans and thought about the fishing. I was staggered to find there's 100,000 trawlers in our seas at any given time, and the nets they use can be bigger than houses. And as they scoop the nets through the oceans, they pick up everything. And there are laws, there are quotas around how much fish we are allowed to take from the oceans. So that means that often lots of fish are thrown back into the ocean dead. They're not used for human consumption, and it means that smaller fish aren't able to reproduce in the same numbers. Larger mammals in the sea aren't able to feed off fish. We are potentially killing off creatures in the sea at an alarming rate. I want to just talk a little bit about consumerism, because this is affecting our planet in a significant way. The average British person consumes 4 times as much as somebody in India. From the phones that we use, the clothes that we wear, the cars that we drive, the food that we eat, we are massive consumers. And I think in America it's 7 times the amount that somebody in India would typically, an average person would consume. And with consumerism comes pollution. We know that plastics are terrible for our planet, but also the pollution of our rivers. The clothes that we wear that are often made in developing countries where they don't have the same laws around pollution and around cleaning our effluents are affecting our rivers so badly. Whole species are dying out. The carbon footprint attached to the clothes that you wear, that you might often wear once and throw in the bin, that goes into landfill, are affecting our planet in a significant way. So I looked a little bit about consumerism in terms of what we eat and the clearing of our natural habitats. We have now cleared enough of our world to be able to grow enough crops to sustain the human population. We don't have to clear any more, but we continue to do so because it's cheaper to do that. And as we clear the Amazon rainforest, as we clear huge areas of scrubland to grow crops, whole species are dying out and we're losing them forever. This graph just shows how much land in the world is used to feed livestock. 60% is used to feed livestock for human consumption, 36% for humans, and only 4% for wild animals. That's a huge shift. So what can we do about it? What is available for us to do? I thought this excerpt from the documentary was really quite useful, so I'm going to play it.
We shape the future of the planet irretrievably by the decisions we take in this next few years. And indeed, in the months now, as we come out of the COVID crisis.
For those of us who care about the future of our planet, we have to look at our lifestyles and we can't look away from our own behaviours.
40 years ago, people consumed a good deal less in the United Kingdom. But there is no evidence that we were unhappier then than we are now.
we can be more diligent about thinking about what we're consuming and when.
It's really digging down, saying, what's going on here? Where does that come from?
We need to think about meat and dairy consumption.
That's not to say that none of us should ever eat meat or should cut all dairy out of our diets, but we have to demand that they are produced sustainably.
Increasingly, I feel it's not just about our current lifestyle, but about the education of our children on the way nature works.
There's a wave of revolution going around, especially with the young people. We are waking up, we are realizing that the planet is an integral part of our existence.
If we don't act now, the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow are going to look back on this generation with absolute horror. What were you thinking?
So when I see headlines like this now, I start to think about what is really happening in our world and what can we change. And I added that clip because it was really interesting to me that the youth of today are actually saying now things need to change. And because this assembly is about making targets and reflecting and thinking about things that you can change, I think it's a really good time in our lives just to look at this and think, what things can we do to help the environment, to help the world, to help climate change? Loads of ideas there. The food that we eat, the food that we waste, so the food that we don't eat, the products we buy, the clothes that we wear. This is a really good time to reflect and make some targets for the future. So just to end with Donald Trump, I saw this quote from him, and I really think it's massively unhelpful that our world leaders are saying things like, it'll start getting cooler, you just watch. I don't think science actually knows. Actually, I think science does know. So hopefully you have learnt something from this assembly and you have an opportunity now to discuss this with your tutors.